Good day, everyone. In the previous discussion, we've been talking about the history of Rizal law, honoring Filipino national heroes and Philippine national literature. This day, we're going to talk about the socio-political and economic conditions of the Philippines during the time of Rizal, especially in the 19th century. The 19th century was an era of growth and innovation. The idea of industrialization became most popular during this period. It was embraced by numerous countries, especially in Europe and the United States. Along with the rapid fame of industrialization, the essence of democracy and nationalism inspired economics and politics. Such action created a more prosperous environment to those who succeeded in their battle for change and freedom. Nevertheless, the Philippines in the 19th century remained primitive despite the emergence marks of growth noted in some sectors. The government, occupied by self-indulgent people, remained deaf and blind to the people's cry of injustice and suffering. The social and economic systems of the country remained reliant on the feudalistic patterns, which fueled disregarded and the people were discontented with the social setup of the country. Racial discrimination and division based on status quo request for reform still was regarded. The existing racial discrimination urged the middle class to broaden their knowledge. The foreign encounter of some educated middle class contributed a lot to the country's development. They imported to the medieval Philippines the idea of liberalism from the West and promoted innovation in how the Filipino viewed the country as a whole. It fueled patriotism among the Filipinos. Rizal's masterpieces showcased his experiences in the Philippines and in the world, most especially in Europe during his lifetime. The rough conditions of society and mankind during his time led him to the idea that all mankind, regardless of status, was born free and had equal rights with others. Now, what happened to the Philippines in the 19th century? Who are those the beneficiaries? And who are those neglected, rejected, and was not given a chance? Let's try to discover these things in order for us to be enlightened kung may nagaganap pa talagang kabalastugan during the time of Jose Rizal in the 19th century. Kung tayo ba mga Pilipino binibigyan ng pansin at tuon upang matugunan ang ating mga pangangailangan. Halika, sama tayo ulit. Let's try to find it out. The social structure of the Philippines in the 19th century. The product of Spanish colonization, which upheld the land-holding system brought by the arrival of the conquistador, made the Philippines feudalistic in setup. Dominion toward the land owned was practiced, wherein the authority and power resided in the hands of the wealthy few. Hence, there was a huge gap between the landlords and their tenants. It resulted in a pyramid structure of social division. Spaniards dominated the peak of the pyramid structure of the social system of the Philippines in the 19th century. If you're going to look up into it, the Spanish people was domineering during those days, during those times. Kung sino pa yung nagarenta, kung sino pa yung mga nag-aupa sa lupain, sila pa yung mga feeling may-ari. Tingnan natin to kung ano talagang kaganapan nito. Spanish officials, peninsulares, and friars comprised the topmost part of the pyramid. Kung sino to mga peninsulares? Sila yung mga inisinilang na mga Spanish-born. Sila yung nagdominante sa ating bansa. Sila yung nagdominante sa mga Pilipino noong naapi na walang kamungmong at walang kamalay-malay sa pamamalakad ng batas, gobyerno. Sila yung nagrerenta, pero sila pa yung nag-aasa ng may-ari. Kawawa yung mga tenants kasi kawawa yung mga landlords and tenants. Baliktada na. Baliktaran yung pangyayari. Ano nga ba talaga ang kanilang papel? Bakit tayo inaapi? Patuloy tayo. The middle part is composed of the favored natives, mestizos, or the half-breeds, the Philippine-born Spaniards, and the Criollos. This group was called the middle class that enjoyed second priority in the social strata. The landless Indios were degraded and enslaved by society, allowing them to occupy the lowest part of the pyramid. So kung ito yung pyramid, ganyan ang shape niya, parang hindi siya matatawag na inverted triangle. Triangle talaga siya. Dito tayo sa baba. Okay? Dito tayo sa baba, ganyan. Ito dito sa kalagitnaan, the middle, and the top are those born Spanish. Spanish occupation shaped the social structure of the Philippines. It made the Philippines embrace the master-slave relationship, allowing the elites to hold the Indians captive. Exploitation was rampant, and the Spaniards' tax and mandatory contribution dragged the poor down. Thus, the powerless remained helpless and the rich increased in power. The social structure left the Indians powerless in their own native land. Tingnan nyo. Have you noticed? Kung sino pa yung nagmamay-ari ng mga lupa-lupain, ay nawala ng lupain. Dahil sa pinataw ng mga taxes na matataas masyado, nakapagtataka naman na sila ang may-ari ng mga lupa-lupain. Sila pang binigyan ng mga taxes. Pambihira naman itong mga nagre-renta ng mga lupa-lupain na angkin nila tuloy. Na walang kamalay-malay ang ating mga kapwa Pilipino noon. Kung sino yung mga mahirap, lalong nalugmok sa kahirapan. Kung sino yung mga mayayaman, lalong yumayaman. Ano nga ba talaga ang pinanggalingan ng kanilang lakas na loob? Siguro marahil ang namamahala noon ay mga Spaniards. Ang kataas-taasan pa nilang gobernador, general, Spanish. Ano pa ang magawa ni Dr. Jose Rizal noon na siya lang nag-isang lumalaban? Siya lang may lakas loob na isiwalat ang lahat-lahat na pagkaganapan. Kung ating batayan ang totoong social structure ngayon sa ating lipunan, meron pa bang ganitong klase? Oo po, para sa akin, opo. I can still remember when I was invited in one of the prestigious hotel in Davao City. The one who invited me was my former student. He told me that I'm going to sit in front. The moment I arrived at a particular hotel, allow me to mention the Marco Polo. I sit in front as what my former student instructed me to do so. But here comes the reality. When the lady approached me, and out of my consciousness, that was the mother of my former student. She told me, "Excuse me, this seat is taken. This is intended for VIP. Ang kapal naman ng mukha mo na umupo dito. Hindi ka naman mukhang VIP. Ano pala ang totoong mukhang VIP? Porket nakapangdamit polo shirt, nakatuck-in ka lang, hindi ka maging magara ang mukha sa iba? Ganunin na kagad ang treatment? Siyempre napahiya, umalis, umuwi. Nakatanggap ng tawag na, "Saan ka na, Prof?" Nung pagbalik, sabi ko, "Pasensya na po. Hindi na ako makakabalik kasi nabusy din ako." "Prof, ikaw naman yung VIP ko. Wala ba? Kung pakisabi na lang yung babae. Sinabihan na kasi ako makapal na mukha. Feeling VIP, hindi naman daw magara suot ko." Ganun nga ba talaga? Kung mang-asta ang iba, akala mo totoong mayaman, hindi naman. Akala mo, mayaman na ipinanganak, hindi naman. Anak naman ang mayaman. Naway, huwag naman nating abusuhin ang mga kabutihang dumarating sa ating buhay. Sikat ka nga ngayon. Yung kasikatan natin, ginamit ba natin sa tama? Binigyan ka nga ng pagkakataon mamahala sa inyong barangay, sa inyong komunidad, sa inyong city. Naway, i-google din natin ang tamang liderato para sa nasasakupan. Naway, ang mga mahirap sa ating kasalukuyang panahon ngayon, matulungan din natin. Huwag natin silang ilugmok lalo sa kahirapan. Dapat ibangon natin sila. Edukasyon ang pinakamahalaga. Ang siyang susi sana para maabot natin ang ating mga minimiti, para makuha natin ang ating gusto. Pero edukasyon din ang nagtulak sa atin para maging walang saysay ang ating pagkatao dahil lang tayo sa totoong pag-uugali. Ang kinin ang hindi dapat ang kinin. Mahirap lalong naghihirap, mayaman lalong yumayaman. Bato-bato sa langit sa mga kunwaring mayayaman. Nagbabayad ba kayo ng saktong taxes? Kung hindi, ibalik nyo na yun sa mga mahirap ang kanilang mga lupa-lupain. Mabuti pa yung mga mahirap, kahit nagkadarapan na sa kahirapan, tuwid pa rin magbabayad ng mga buwis. Hindi ko sinasabi lahat ng mga hirap nagbabayad ng mga buwis. Pero may mga mahirap totoong magbayad talaga ng buwis para sa gobyerno. Pero daming mga mayayaman dito sa ating sosyedad, pilit nagsisinungaling sa katotohanan para kapaperinggot lang ang ibinabayad ng taxes na sanay o na sana maitulong sa pagpalago ng ekonomiya ng ating bansa. Panahinusgahan na korap ang government, pero mas korap po sila sa totoong pag-uugali nila. Naway matauhan din tayo sa pamaraan ng mga social structure na kinagisnan ni Jose Rizal noong 19th century. Naway walang hidwaan. Naway walang mayaman, walang mahirap. Naway walang pasakit, kaginawaan at kaligayahan ang maipadama sa bawat mamamayan upang mataimtim nating makamtan ang tagumpay ng ating bansang Pilipinas. Mabuhay po tayong lahat hanggang sa sunod po na diskusyon. God bless everyone.